You're watching LMCC, your community TV.
Hi, I'm Kellie Murphy-Ringate, Fire Marshal and Public Educator for the Excelsior Fire District, and welcome to First Responder TV, your local public safety source, featuring training exercises, safety tips, and much more. Here's what's coming up on First Responder TV. I'll talk with local tree experts about storm awareness and safety tips. The Long Lake Fire Department takes part in a bus extrication training exercise on Safety Source. We'll spotlight the top 5 fireworks safety tips. Scam Alert will give you an update on scams that have been targeting citizens in the lake area. Joining us now is Kelly Fisher from Hennepin County Emergency Management and Wes Nichols from Pro Tree Outdoor Services. Today we are going to talk about storm awareness and safety. What steps should our audience take to prevent their trees or large branches from falling and damaging a house or a building, a vehicle, or taking down power lines?
You're going to want to start at the bottom of the tree and work your way up. So the first thing you want to look at is you're going to want to go take a complete walk around the entire tree, look at the rip plate of the tree, make sure there's no heaving of the rip plate, then work your way up and look at the trunk flare of the tree, make sure that that's all intact, that there's no decay pockets there or any fungal growth on the rip plate of the tree. And then make your way up. You're going to want to look for codominant stems, which are two trunks competing for one canopy. And sometimes when those come together, we get a bark inclusion. So if there's something like that, you might want to take a close look for that. Look for weakly attached branch unions, look for broken branches, dead wood.
I've done my tree inspection. At what point do I know that this is something that I need to call somebody immediately about, or something that maybe I can wait a week or 2 or a month out?
Well, there's a lot of great tree companies here in the metro area. And most of us that are arborists, if you call and you have a question, even if you just want us to come out and take a look at it, we'll do that, without a charge. So if you're worried about it or you're concerned about it, just call. It takes 5 minutes to get on the phone with someone, schedule an appointment, have them come out, take a look at it. If there's an issue, they can generally provide you a quote right away to correct the problem.
So what's the best time of year that people should look or inspect their trees?
We would recommend that you take a look at your trees anytime during the dormancy season. So, after the leaves drop in the fall, through the winter, early spring. When there's no foliage on the trees, it's a lot easier for us to do an inspection. We're able to see the branching structure of the tree, and we're able to point out any of those defects or structural issues a lot easier.
So how often should people trim their trees?
A lot of it's dependent on species, location, site conditions, age of the tree, and you're going to want to talk to an arborist who is familiar with all those different things to figure out a regular pruning or maintenance plan. But I would say on average, most trees need pruning every 3 to 7 years.
If you really are concerned or care about your trees, you should have a trained arborist come out and look at your trees and have somebody trim your trees on a regular basis.
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to prevent, storm damage to your home, your property. Trees add a lot of value to your property, so they're worth investing in.
So now, Kelly, I'm going to ask you, what precautions should people take other than trees before a storm to prevent damage to their home, their vehicles, and their property?
Okay, so a lot of times what you'll get these, the weather report will say that there's a storm coming within a day or two. And that really should really prompt you to start looking around your yard and start thinking, what are the things that are most likely going to blow around? And some of these things that blow around can cause some real damage to your property, or if someone's out in that storm. So things like patio furniture, that is the number one thing we see moved around the county is patio furniture, umbrellas especially. A lot of times we'll see a lot of damage from things tipping over onto houses or onto cars. So the big thing is that that ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's like when you get that chance, the opportunity to go ahead and kind of batten down the hatches, you're really going to want to take that opportunity. And if you've done the tree work, that's the other thing that we see a lot of damage is of dead branches. And once the wind starts blowing, the trees start slapping together, things start falling. So One of the things you'll want to do when you start, you know the storm is imminent, you're going to want to put things into sheds, put things into garages.
How do I know when a storm is coming and I should react?
In Hennepin County, we have the warning sirens that you hear, and you hear them tested on the first Wednesday of every month. So when you hear a siren, the siren is a warning siren. It's an outdoor warning siren. So if you're outdoors, what you want to do is seek shelter or go indoors and then seek information. And it was designed to do that. When you hear that, that means when the siren goes off, a storm is approaching. It's not a warning that a storm is coming. So you'll hear two different types. On a Wednesday, when you hear the siren test, you'll hear a steady tone, which is severe weather. And then you hear a rising and falling tone, which is something like a gas leak or like if a rail car tipped over or something. You'd hear that. It's easy to mistake them though, because most sirens, the modern sirens, rotate. So even though it's rotating, it might sound like it's rising and falling, it's still a steady tone.
So after the storm, a homeowner has a tree fall on their house, their car, it takes down power lines. What should they do at that point?
One of the first things you want to do is make sure that your house or whatever you're in is structurally sound. Don't walk out of something that's protecting you into something that's not. And keep in mind that we love our trees in Minnesota. We absolutely do, and there's trees everywhere. And because there are trees everywhere, there's power lines running everywhere. And when a tree falls on a power line, a lot of times it gets wrapped, and you can't even see it. So if you walk outside and you see a power line, assume that it's hot and that it is energized. It's impossible for you without instrumentation to tell if that is hot or not.
You also got to consider that the ground next to a down power line can become energized. Chain link fences, any object in your yard can become energized. You also have the possibility of backfeeding. You know, if a neighbor were to start up a generator, even if the power to the entire neighborhood is out, someone can backfeed that line through a generator. So you got to be cautious of that.
If the trees or the damage is on the road, okay, if it's on a city street or a county road, there's a city worker or a county worker that is going to come and deal with that. So that is not your domain. And we want to make sure that people understand to leave that right where it is. And then as far as in the yard, that's where ProTree would come in, or a company like that, to assess and help you with that.
I'm a homeowner that has had a tree fall either on my house or my vehicle or done some property damage. What do I do?
Assume that everything is unstable. Even if there's a tree that's fallen on your house or your car and it looks stable, assume it's unstable. You know, keep your kids inside, keep your dog on a leash. You know, if you're going to be making an insurance claim, it's a good idea to take some pictures of those kinds of things. And yeah, then just do an assessment, walk all the way around.
What do you think people should know about hiring a tree contractor after a storm?
The first thing that you want to make sure of is that they're properly insured, that they have both general liability insurance and workman's comp. And before you sign a contract or anyone commences any work, make sure, you know, it's fairly easy these days with email to send a copy of that stuff over to you. You know, also get multiple estimates, get, you know, 1 or 2 estimates, and make sure that they're competitive, and ask them how they plan to perform the work. You know, what kind of equipment they'll be using, what kind of manpower, how they plan to access the trees or your yard. Make sure you ask if the debris disposal is included and when that will be done.
So let's talk a little bit about people trying to do their own tree work or damage control and some chainsaw safety.
One of the first things that we do, no matter if we're going to cut on a road or anything, is we have to do a complete walk around to make sure we assess to make sure that it's safe. The first thing we want to make sure are those power lines, because before we even start our saw, we want to make sure that there's no wires wrapped into that's not going to cause us any harm. And the problem, as we discussed before, is you really can't tell if that line is hot. So we use equipment like this is called a V-Watch, and this would be something that we would carry in that initial assessment. When it's in the case and it's closed, it won't go off. But once you expose it, and it's designed with a lanyard to hang around your neck, what it does is it gives a warning beep like that. That tells you that the line is hot. The closer you get, the more the beep. So if this was a power line laying on the road, you can't tell if this is hot. And if you walked up and looked at it, there'd be no way. But if you take an instrument, that tells you right there that that line is hot. And then we're going to make sure that we have all of the proper PPE before we start a saw.
So that your PPE is just like ours. We have our personal protective equipment as firefighters, and so do people in your businesses, people who use chainsaws.
You know, if you're going to try and clean up after a storm yourself, you need to make sure that you have all the same PPE that we do. And you know, all this stuff is available at your local hardware store or, you know, corner store, so wherever you can buy chainsaws and those types of related tools and equipment.
If you think about it, I mean, if you look at what we have right in front of us here, and we look at a normal pair of chaps, they're right around $100. You can get some that might be a little less than that, but what you want to do is make sure that they are approved, okay? And what they are is there's Kevlar inside, and that's not to say that it's puncture proof, but what the Kevlar actually does is run from the top to the bottom in strands. And if that is breached by a saw, what it does is it actually pulls those strands out and stops the chain from going around. So that would be a pair of chaps, do that. And then there's a couple of examples of chainsaw pants. If you don't protect yourself, accidents will happen.
Wes, when do you put your personal protective equipment on?
So when we're out working, I won't even get out of the truck without putting my helmet on. It becomes kind of a comfort thing. I've seen a lot of injuries over the years, and I know what can happen in this line of work, so it becomes second nature to us.
So for me, my hearing protection drops down, and so before I start my saw, I put my hearing protection on. Before I run my saw, I put the face shield down, because anything that flies up and hits me in the face, it protects me from that.
Why don't we talk about what to do when you're starting a saw, like how to hold it and what you should do to start it?
Sure. Well, the first thing I want to talk about, Kelly, is the 5 safety features on your chainsaw. So I'll run you through them quick. The first one is going to be your chain brake, and that's here. And this is similar to like the safety on a gun. You want to keep that on at all times, even if you're not cutting wood, just put it on. Make your cut, put the chain brake back on. And that's another thing that's kind of second nature to us, is we just always, when you're walking around, anytime you're not actively cutting, put that chain brake on and make sure it works. Before you start the saw, put it on, try and move your chain back and forth. That'll tell you whether or not it's working. The second one is your ignition interlock switch. That's right here. So that makes sure that if you were to accidentally bump the throttle, you can't do it unless you have your hand fully wrapped around the handle of the saw. Then you're able to engage the throttle there. Next is your kill switch. You want to make sure that's functioning properly. Last is your chain catch. That's this piece of aluminum down here at the bottom. That protects you from the chain. If the chain were to pop off the bar of the saw and come spinning back at you, it would catch on there and it would stop it from hitting you. And finally is your right hand guard. So that's, again, if the chain were to come dislodge, your hand would be wrapped around here on the saw, and that would protect the chain from hitting your hand there.
The one thing that everybody looks at and sometimes overlooks these are called dogs. And what these are, they look like little spears. That's so that when you go into the wood and you can use it as a fulcrum when you're cutting, make sure that those are tight. If any of this stuff is loose or missing that Wes or myself have talked about, then the saw, you shouldn't run it because it's not safe.
So do we want to start a saw and show people how to do that?
Yeah, we want to show you there's 2 different methods. There's only 2 ways to safely start a chainsaw. The first one is called the leg lock method, and Kelly's going to show you that one. And then the second one...
I'm going to have you go ahead and stand over there.
I'd be delighted to.
Thank you.
The second one's called the foot hold, and I'm going to show you that one.
So the saw will go, you hold it in your left hand right at the arch, so your saw is at an angle. When you put it in between your legs, it locks in, okay? It can't move, it won't move. What you want to be able to do is you want to be able to pull a full stroke with the cord. If you use this hand, you only get this much. So make sure that your saw is ready to go and your chain brake is on, and when you pull it, it's just nice and easy and it doesn't move.
The other method I'm going to show you is called the foot hold technique. So you can use this on a little bit bigger of a chainsaw, but what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take one knee, lock your foot into the saw there, make sure your chain brake is on and double check it with your hand, put the saw on full choke, and you're going to want to just give it one pull and the saw should turn over. If you have a decompression valve, you can hit that at the same time too. You always want to make sure you have two hands on the saw, one on the rear hand of the saw and one on the front hand of the saw with your thumbs wrapped all the way around the chainsaw. Just by doing that and wearing the proper protective equipment that we're wearing today, you're 75% less likely to have a chainsaw-related accident.
Kellie, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience that we have not already talked about?
You know, really, what it really boils down to is be safe. The county is going to get out there after a storm as quickly as they can. They're sending the right people with the right tools. And so the best thing to do is go ahead and let them just do their job.
Make sure you know your limitations, and if you're concerned at whether or not you can clean up some tree debris or a down tree after a storm, if you think you might not be able to do it, just wait and contact a professional and get a couple estimates on it.
Thank you so much for both of you being here today. I know your schedules are really busy and you've got a lot to do. To prepare for emergencies, the Long Lake Fire Department uses real-life scenarios to make their training as realistic as possible.
911, what's the nature of your emergency?
Black helmets, divide yourselves up. Tonight we're here at our Long Lake Fire Station number 1, and we are working on bus extrication. Our coverage area includes the school district of Orono, and they have 5 buildings in our area and a campus of about 120 acres. And so 2 times a day for 5 different buildings, these buses are out on our streets full of students. Tonight we've invited some experts in the field of bus extrication to come into our department and bring a bus with them, and we're getting some hands-on time with our tools, and we're going to learn how to appropriately gain access to a bus and bring patients out of a bus should we ever need. So I'll take you a little walk around and show you what's going on and show you what we're going to do here tonight.
Black lines are the strongest point of the school bus.
First thing that we do when we arrive on scene as a fire department is we do a 360 overview of the incident. So that's kind of what we're doing right now. We're taking our time to walk around the bus, survey the damage, find out how and where we're going to make entry if we need to, other hazards that might be in the way that are going to prevent us from making a rescue that we need to be cautious of.
If you show up, you can figure out what the capacity is. You always plan for the worst, plan for 59, and hope there's 5.
Officers, put your hand in the air so we can gather up. 1, 2, 3, where's my 4th? All right, thank you. All right, so we've talked our way through what we've got going on. Now we've got everybody split into 4 groups, and we're gonna put that talk into action. So we've got 2 groups that are focusing on extrication. They're gonna cut into the bus and gain entry. We have another group that's focusing on stabilization. They're gonna make sure this bus isn't gonna rock back and forth or roll down the road. And then we have a 4th group that's gonna be inside, taking care of patients, triaging, getting people out that could just get out on their own, and figuring out how to get the ones out that can't get out on their own. All right, so this is our stabilization crew, and they're working to make sure that the bus isn't gonna roll or rock. So what they've built here is cribbing. They've stacked cribbing up, and then they're actually gonna lift up the whole front end of the bus and then lower it down on top of those wooden stacks to keep the whole thing stable. And what they have in between them are actually airbags, inflatable airbags, and so we'll fill them up one at a time, and there'll be enough pressure in there to lift the whole front end of that bus up and then set it back down again. All right, so this is giving us a great opportunity to practice with some of our new battery-powered set of extrication equipment. So until now, all of our equipment and most of the equipment in the fire service is onboard PTO and hydraulics. Now, with the advent of lithium-ion batteries, we can do it with a mobile battery-powered cutter, and it's still hydraulic, but it's on a much smaller scale and much more versatile and easy to use. That type of battery on a piece of equipment like this will go for about an hour continuously. Plenty of juice to do the job we need it to do. All right, so the crew inside the bus is making as though they have patients inside that need to be extricated, and the door is not an option. So what they've done in there is they've removed several of the seats, and now they're turning a window. They've cut 2 slits down on either side of the window, and they're turning that window into a door. They're gonna get their patient out that way. All right, well, thank you for being here with us tonight. I hope it was educational for you. I know it was educational for us. This is just one of the Monday nights that we have here at the Long Lake Fire Department. We get together every Monday night for 2 hours, and we train on all the different various incidences that we might be called to help you. Thanks for joining us again. Support your local fire department, and God bless.
When we come back, we'll give you updates on scams that have been targeting citizens in the lake area. But first, here are the top 5 fireworks safety tips you want to remember this summer.
Make sure fireworks are legal to light off in your area, and never buy or use illegal fireworks. When lighting a firework, never stand directly over it or hold it in your hand, and never go back to a lit firework if it fails to go off. Always point fireworks away from people, homes, trees, and other easily flammable materials, and never light more than 1 at a time. Always keep a water bucket or garden hose close by in case of a fire or other mishap. Never allow children to play with or ignite fireworks, and keep them out of reach when not being used. And remember, sparklers burn at temperatures of about 2,000 degrees, so children must be supervised by an adult at all times when using them.
The Lake Minnetonka Communications Commission, located in Spring Park, creates a variety of high-quality public, educational, and government programming for member cities.
All in favor?
LMCC operates 4 channels. Channel 8 or HD 808 offers city council meetings in high definition. Staff-produced and community programming airs on channels 12 and 21. Channel 20 features school board and other government agency meetings. The studio is fully equipped in high definition, featuring state-of-the-art Panasonic cameras and fluorescent lighting. The studio is used to create a variety of LMCC programming. The LMCC production van is used to cover a variety of events in the community in high definition, including high school sports, concerts, and community forums. If you live in one of our member cities and are interested in producing your own show or using your talents for a production, please contact the Lake Minnetonka Communications Commission. LMCC, your community TV.
Better Business Bureau of Minnesota and North Dakota is warning about a scam where someone can steal your cell phone number and port it over to another carrier. A new way scammers can steal your identity and withdraw funds from your bank accounts. A scammer acquires your name and phone number and attempts to gather as much personal information as they can, including your address and social security number, which can be used for identity theft. They then contact your mobile provider, pretending to be you, and inform them that your phone was stolen. Once they have your number ported to a new device, they can start gaining entry to accounts that require additional authorization, such as a code texted directly to your phone for security verification. Victims of port-out scams may not know this has happened until their mobile device loses service, or after receiving unexpected messages containing account authentication codes. To help protect you from this type of scam, talk to your cell phone provider about port-out authorization. Every major wireless provider has additional security that customers can set up, such as a unique PIN or verification question. Watch out for phishing attempts, alert messages from financial institutions, and unexpected texts about two-factor authentication requests that you didn't initiate. If you've been a victim of this scam, you should file a report on the Better Business Bureau's Scam Tracker. The Federal Trade Commission receives thousands of complaints each year regarding work-at-home scams. The scams claim you can make money sampling products, being a mystery shopper, or completing surveys. In most cases, the scam requires you to pay money up front and often take advantage of people's desperate need for income. Fraudsters usually advertise the scams through pop-up internet ads, emails, or social networks. Some websites use tracking software to identify what states the victims are in and the sites they've visited, and then tailor the scam to certain locations and interests. Don't reply to unsolicited emails or pop-up internet ads offering a work-at-home opportunity, especially if the job requires you to pay money in advance. Legitimate companies usually pay you to work for them, not the other way around. Research the company and find out what kind of business it provides by contacting reputable sources, such as the Better Business Bureau or the Secretary of State's office. If you've been a victim of this scam, you should file a report with the Federal Trade Commission at 877-382-4357. There's been an increase in mail theft occurring in the Lake Minnetonka area and surrounding communities. These scammers are targeting delivered and outgoing mail in both residential and business areas. They're looking for ways to commit fraud by stealing personal checks, bill statements, credit cards, and other financial paperwork. You should pick up your incoming mail as soon as it's delivered and avoid putting outgoing mail in your mailbox. Instead, place mail directly in official postal service boxes. When going on vacation, have the post office hold your mail or have a trusted friend or neighbor pick up your mail. Opt for paperless statements so that your information is not delivered to your mailbox, and use automatic deposit for payroll, Social Security, or other federal benefit checks. Be observant of activities and people on your street, and if you see something suspicious, call 911.
Thanks for watching First Responder TV, your local public safety source. If you have an idea for a segment, an upcoming public safety or fire prevention event, please let us know. This is Kellie Murphy-Ringate giving you information you can use, share, or to live by. See you next time.